Ukraine's security service has raided several Orthodox Christian monasteries across the nation, including a 1,000-year-old monastery in the center of Kyiv. The sites were searched due to suspected links to Russian agents. Moscow has rebuked the raids, accusing Ukraine of waging war against the Russian church. Kyiv says the raids were to counter suspected subversive activities by Russian special services and to prevent the sites from being used to harbor sabotage and intelligence groups. The 11th century Kyiv Pechursk Lavra, also known as the Monastery of the Caves, is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's the headquarters of the Ukrainian Orthodox Church, which was formerly under the Russian Orthodox Church in Moscow. The church had cut ties with Russia a few months after the war in Ukraine, but there is suspicion that some clergy members are still loyal to Russia.
Ukraine is struggling to keep the lights on. Its national power grid operator says the attack last week by Russian forces have caused colossal damage, leaving virtually no thermal or hydroelectric power plant intact.
У нас практично не залишилося в Україні неушкоджених теплових і гідроелектростанцій. Тобто, для того, щоб ви розуміли масштаб цих атак і з чим нам приходиться працювати, практично вся теплова і гідрогенерація, якщо ми говоримо про великі електростанції, зазнала ушкоджень, зазнала ракетних ударів. Також майже не залишилося неушкоджених вузлових підстанцій Укренерго.
He added that Ukraine has enough fuel reserves, dismissing the need to evacuate civilians. Temperatures in several areas, though, are already below freezing and could drop to minus 20 degrees Celsius or even lower in some areas during the colder months. Ahead of a dark and cold winter, the U.S. has pledged $4.5 billion in financial support, with the funds aimed at sustaining essential services and core government functions. The money will go through the World Bank. This includes wages for hospital workers, government and school employees, pensions for the elderly, and social programs for the vulnerable.
The U.S. is clearly eager to send money to aid Ukraine in its fight, but they've been holding back on sending lethal Gray Eagle drones, which Kyiv has made numerous appeals for. Senators are urging the Pentagon to reconsider. Simon Marks explains what's stopping them from doing so.
But the Biden administration has held back from providing these Gray Eagle drones because they are worried about the power and the force that these weapons offer. These are drones that can fly at 29,000 feet. They can fire 4 Hellfire missiles. They are very, very serious instruments of war. And so the Biden administration has several concerns. One is that the Ukrainians might seek to use them to target Russian terrain. Now, you could, of course, negotiate that out with the Ukrainians, and that may be taking some time. The second is that if one of these drones were to fall in enemy territory, the Russians might get their hands on a pretty useful piece of military kit, which the Americans worry about. There is a suggestion that the Pentagon is looking at the possibility of slightly downgrading any of the Gray Eagles that may make their way to the Ukrainian battlefield in order to make them a little bit less lethal, but still obviously of substantial use for the Ukrainians. The White House definitely feeling the pressure, particularly from Republican senators on Capitol Hill, to get this equipment moving, but they are concerned about the possibility that Russia would interpret this as NATO, in effect, dragging itself into a conflict with Moscow, and they remain eager to try and avoid that.
Still ahead, we'll have the opening numbers from China markets amid tighter COVID rules in parts of the country. And we'll tell you why not everyone in France is stoked about watching their team defend their World Cup title in Qatar.
The 20th Party Congress. Xi Jinping has secured an unprecedented third term as president.
China will be more united and more stable than ever before.
Some people say up to 80% of the people support him.
But can his popularity at home translate on the global stage?
The back of the world will be very much fed up with China's warrior diplomacy.
The next 5 years of Sea Insight, Thursday on CNA.
Climate change affecting our elephants across Asia.
कि हम 6th मास एक्सटिंक्शन की तरफ बहुत तेजी से बढ़ रहे हैं.
There's a pile of plastics accumulating in this deepest part of the country.
Marine turtles often miss